Betrayal isn't always obvious. Sometimes it doesn't come with anger or confrontation or raised voices. Sometimes it arrives as a realization you didn't know you were waiting for. If you've ever looked back at a moment and suddenly understood what it really meant, stay with me. I didn't recognize the betrayal at first. That's the strange part. Nothing dramatic happened. No argument, no falling out, just a shift. A moment where I realized the loyalty I thought we shared was never actually mutual. I had been consistent, present, reliable, not loudly, just there. I stood up for people when it would have been easier not to. I kept things private that could have been leveraged. I gave trust freely, assuming it would be treated with care. And for a long time, I believed it was. Until I noticed how easily my absence went unnoticed, how quickly decisions were made without me, how naturally my effort was assumed, but my voice wasn't included. It wasn't that I was pushed out, I was stepped around. That realization hurts in a very specific way, because it forces you to confront something uncomfortable. You can be loyal to people who never planned to be loyal to you, not maliciously, just selectively. They weren't betraying me on purpose. They were simply choosing themselves in ways I never allowed myself to. And that stings, not because it's wrong, but because it reveals an imbalance you can't ignore anymore. I replayed moments in my head, conversations where I defended them, situations where I stayed quiet for their sake, times I absorbed discomfort so things wouldn't get complicated. And I started asking myself, was that loyalty or was that avoidance? Because true loyalty doesn't require you to disappear. And that's when the betrayal became clear. Not in what they did, but in what I allowed. I wanted someone else to notice, to acknowledge the imbalance, to step in and say, that wasn't right, but no one did. That's another part no one warns you about. Sometimes the pain isn't the betrayal, it's the silence that follows it. The realization that fairness isn't guaranteed, that being good doesn't make you immune, that trust doesn't come with protection. And that's where faith gets tested. Not the loud kind of faith, the quiet one, the kind that asks, can I stay true to myself even when it costs me? I didn't confront anyone, not because I was afraid, but because I understood something new. Confrontation wouldn't restore what was missing. Trust, once revealed as one-sided, can't be argued back into balance. So instead, I stepped back. Not angrily, not dramatically. I just stopped overextending. Stopped defending people who wouldn't defend me. Stopped carrying what wasn't mine to carry. Stopped mistaking endurance for loyalty. That was harder than confronting them because it meant letting go of the story where I was valued in the way I hoped. And letting go of that story felt like loss, but something else emerged in its place. Clarity. I began to see where my loyalty belonged, not to people, but to principles, to honesty, to self-respect, to integrity that didn't depend on return. And strangely, that didn't make me colder. It made me calmer. If you're listening to this and recognizing a loyalty that was never matched, I won't tell you to harden. I won't tell you to cut people off. I'll just say this: pay attention to where you keep giving in hopes of balance, because loyalty that costs you yourself isn't loyalty. It's a quiet abandonment, and you deserve better than that, even if no one else ever says it. Let me share a metaphor. Imagine being in a boat with 2 oars. You're rowing steadily, pull after pull, keeping the boat moving forward. At first, you don't notice anything wrong. You assume this is just how effort feels. But over time, you start drifting in circles. You pull harder, adjust your rhythm, blame the water. Only later do you realize there's only one oar in the water. The other has been lifted the entire time. Not broken, not missing, just not being used. That's what it feels like when loyalty isn't mutual. You keep showing up. You keep correcting the course. You keep believing balance will come back. And because you care, you row harder until exhaustion forces the truth into view. The boat wasn't struggling because you weren't strong enough. It was drifting because you were rowing alone. Loyalty doesn't announce itself. It shows up in shared effort. And once you see which oars are moving, you can finally stop blaming yourself for the circles you were never meant to row in.